The snow was falling like soft whispers against the golden lights of the Hale mansion. Victor Hale, one of the youngest billionaires in the country, stepped out of his sleek black car, his breath forming small clouds in the icy air. Everything about the night looked perfect, carols playing faintly, the scent of cinnamon and pine floating through the air, the laughter echoing from inside. But what he didn't know was that this Christmas would burn itself into his soul forever. As he walked through the grand doors, the warmth of the fire greeted him. But so did a silence that felt different, thick, heavy, and waiting. His mother smiled nervously from across the room. "Victor, we have a surprise guest," she said softly. He turned toward the voice behind her, and his heart skipped a beat. There, standing near the Christmas tree, holding a tray of cookies, was her, Emily, the woman he once loved. The woman he lost because he chose his ambition over her. For a moment the world stopped spinning. The twinkling lights blurred. But that wasn't what broke him. What broke him were the 3 little children playing beside her. 3 small faces that looked painfully familiar. One of the boys had his sharp jawline, another had his deep blue eyes. The smallest girl smiled exactly like he used to as a child. Victor stood frozen, every breath shallow, his chest heavy with disbelief. His world, the empire he had built brick by brick, suddenly felt meaningless. The laughter of those children cut through the quiet like a melody from a life he could have had. For the first time in years, Victor felt something pierce through the armor he had built around his heart. Regret. Victor couldn't move. Every instinct told him to turn and leave, but his feet refused. His mother's cheerful voice tried to bridge the tension, introducing everyone as if nothing was wrong. But Victor barely heard her. Emily's eyes met his for the first time in years, steady, calm, but distant, as though she had built a world where he no longer belonged. She gave a polite smile, one that felt like a knife to his chest, then bent down to help one of the boys tie his shoe. That simple motherly act crushed him. Those hands, once held in his during long nights of dreams and promises, now belonged to a life that didn't include him. He tried to breathe normally, but his pulse was pounding in his ears. The youngest girl ran up to him, giggling, holding a snow globe. "Mister, look. It's snowing inside," she said brightly. He smiled faintly, his throat tight, his eyes glistening as he crouched to her level. "It's beautiful," he whispered. The little girl grinned wider, so much like Emily it hurt. His mother called everyone to dinner, and Victor followed in silence, each step heavier than the last. The dining room glittered with candles and silver, but the air felt cold. Across the table, Emily helped the children with their plates, her laughter soft and genuine. Victor's mother noticed his unease but said nothing. As the evening went on, he could barely focus on conversation. Every time the children laughed, he saw pieces of himself reflected back. It wasn't envy. It was longing, raw and unbearable. He realized that he hadn't just lost Emily. He had lost the version of himself who knew how to love. And now, sitting in front of everything he ever wanted but could never have again, Victor understood something that all his millions had never taught him. No fortune could buy back a single moment of love once it's gone. Dinner passed like a blur of laughter and memories Victor wasn't part of. He smiled when spoken to, nodded when expected, but his mind was miles away. Every sound, the children's laughter, the clinking of cutlery, Emily's gentle voice, pulled him deeper into the ache he had tried to bury for years. When the evening began to slow, his mother excused herself to the kitchen, and the children ran to the living room to open their small gifts. Only Victor and Emily remained at the table, the candlelight flickering between them like the ghosts of their past. "You've done well, Victor," she said quietly, breaking the silence. "I've seen your name everywhere lately." Her tone was polite, not proud. It hurt more than anger ever could. He gave a small, forced laugh. "Yeah, I guess success doesn't mean much when you can't share it." She looked up then, her eyes soft but guarded. "You chose your world. I chose mine." Her words were calm, not accusing, but they landed like thunder in his chest. Before he could respond, one of the boys came running back, waving a paper. "Mommy, look what I made!" He held a messy drawing of their family, Emily, the 3 kids, and a tall man with a smile. But the face was unfinished. "You forgot Daddy," the older boy said. Emily froze for a second before forcing a small smile. "We'll draw him later," she said quickly. Victor's heart ached so sharply he had to look away. When the kids went back to playing, he stood quietly by the window, watching the snow fall again. His reflection stared back at him, surrounded by light and laughter that didn't belong to him. Emily joined him, her voice barely above a whisper. "They deserve peace, Victor." "That's all I ever wanted." He turned toward her, eyes glistening. "And what about me? Don't I deserve a second chance?" She hesitated, her lips trembling slightly. "Sometimes," she said softly. "The second chance we get is learning how to live with the first one we lost." Victor stood motionless, her words echoing inside him long after she walked away to join the children. "The second chance we get is learning how to live with the first one we lost." The sentence kept ringing in his head like an unending melody of regret. He walked out to the mansion's terrace, the cold wind cutting through his tailored suit, but he didn't care. From the window he could see Emily kneeling beside the kids, helping them unwrap gifts, her laughter spilling softly into the air. That image struck him harder than any business loss ever could. It wasn't jealousy, it was realization. He had built skyscrapers, companies, and fortune, but not a single moment of genuine happiness lived within his empire. For the first time in years, he felt truly poor. His phone buzzed in his pocket, an assistant reminding him of a midnight investor call. He silenced it without hesitation. His eyes stayed on the family inside. It was a life that once could have been his. Suddenly one of the boys ran outside, clutching a small snowman toy. "Mom said I can play for a bit," the child said cheerfully. Victor knelt down, smiling faintly. "What's your name, champ?" "Evan," the boy replied proudly. "Mom says I'm brave like my dad was." Victor froze. "Was?" he repeated, his voice cracking slightly. The boy nodded. "He went to heaven before I was born, but Mom says he would have been kind." Victor's throat tightened. Emily appeared at the door, her expression still but her eyes shimmering with unspoken pain. "Come inside, Evan," she said gently. The boy ran past her, leaving Victor alone again in the cold. His heart ached, not from shock but from clarity. Emily wasn't married. Those children didn't have a father. All this time he had assumed she moved on, but she hadn't. She had simply chosen peace over chaos, truth over pride. And now, staring at the life he once threw away, Victor realized that the greatest mistake wasn't losing her. It was believing he could ever replace her. Victor stood beneath the quiet snowfall, his breath heavy, his mind a storm of what-ifs. For years he had convinced himself that success was everything, that love was a distraction, that feelings were fragile things that slowed a man down. Yet now, watching Emily through the window, he saw strength in the life she built without him. She looked peaceful, fulfilled, and surrounded by the laughter of children who didn't even know their real father's face. That realization tore him apart and healed him all at once. He wanted to step forward, to tell her everything he had buried. The regret, the sleepless nights, the dreams of her he pretended to forget. But his pride, the same wall that once separated them, still stood tall. He walked back inside, unsure of what to say. Emily was helping her mother clean up the dishes, humming softly. When she noticed him standing there, she didn't look away this time. "You were good with Evan," she said gently. "He doesn't open up to people easily." "He reminds me of someone," Victor replied, forcing a small smile. "Someone stubborn, brave. Someone I lost because I didn't know how to fight for her." Emily froze, the plate in her hand trembling slightly. "Victor, please," she began, but he stepped closer, his voice low and raw. "I know I can't change the past, but if there's even a small part of you that still remembers what we had, I want to make it right." Her eyes softened, but pain lingered there. "You can't fix years with one apology," she said. "You taught me that love needs presence, not promises." Victor lowered his gaze, her words striking deep. "Then let me earn the right to be present again," he whispered. For a moment she said nothing. Then in the reflection of the window behind her, he saw her wipe a tear she didn't want him to see. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was the beginning of something fragile, something real. The night had grown quieter, but Victor's heart beat louder than ever. The guests had left. The children were asleep near the fireplace, and the glow of the Christmas tree painted soft light across the room. Emily stood by the window, her hands folded, lost in thought. Victor approached slowly, unsure if his presence was a comfort or a wound. "I should go," he said quietly, though every part of him wanted to stay. Emily turned toward him, her eyes tired yet kind. "You don't have to," she replied softly. "But I don't know what staying would mean for either of us." Her honesty hurt more than rejection. Victor looked at the tree, then at the 3 stockings hanging by the mantel, each one neatly labeled with a child's name. "They deserve the world," he said, his voice trembling. "You gave it to them, Emily, without me." She smiled faintly. "No, Victor, I gave them love, the world. That's still yours to give if you choose to." He felt something stir inside him, something pure, long forgotten. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. It wasn't jewelry, it was an old charm bracelet, the one he had given her years ago and thought she had lost. "I kept this," he whispered, "even when I lost everything else." Emily's eyes widened, then softened with tears she tried to hold back. "Why show me this now?" He took a slow breath. "Because I finally understand what it meant. It wasn't a gift. It was a promise I broke. And tonight, I want to start keeping it again." The silence between them grew heavy but not cold. For the first time in years, Emily stepped closer, her eyes shining with warmth instead of hurt. "Then start with them," she said, glancing at the sleeping children. "Be the man they can look up to." "Not for me, for them." Victor nodded, his throat tight. As dawn approached, he quietly placed a gift beside each child. A small snow globe like the one the little girl had shown him earlier, each engraved with one word: hope. For the first time, Victor didn't feel empty walking away. He felt human, redeemed not by money, but by love rediscovered on a Christmas night he would never forget.